Hi, I'm Susan Black. I am the moderator for this very excited session. We are glad that you are here today. It's leadership strategies for implementing AI in travel companies. And over the past day or so, day and a half, we have been hearing incredible strategies, great tips, amazing content. But if you're a leader in a travel organization, particularly a large hospitality, cruise line, airline, tour operator, etc., the question may be, from the C-suite point of view, how do you implement this? How do you get the company to be singing from the generative AI hymn book? How do you alleviate fears? Of course, we've heard about fears of losing jobs or not being relevant any longer. And so we're going to be addressing all of that with how to introduce this into the culture so that you can optimize your success, not only at the leadership level, but also throughout the entire organization. Now, I did some research before our great panelists kind of jump in with their information. And I took a look at what some of the leading executive recruitment firms are looking at and some of the research there, such as Korn Ferry. And they are saying that upwards of 82% of leaders at companies, not just travel companies, but all over, are really looking at a generative AI within their organization. How does it fit in? Do they have the right talent, skill sets, people to be leading this? And what should their next steps be? Well, we don't have to wonder about that because we have the panelists today that are going to address that. We have three great contributors. We have first Julien Boulenger, who is the partner over at management consulting firm Oliver Wyman. And he's going to set the stage first with some proprietary research that his group has done specifically in travel and specifically in terms of generative AI adoption and what companies are saying about it. He'll also be giving us some insights about what their reaction is to the information that he's going to be presenting. We'll then have a very lively dialogue with two friends and two great leaders. Bruce Rosenberg, who is the president of the Americas for Hotel Planner, which is an online booking platform, and also another platform, which is a marketing platform led by Chief Product Officer Kurt Weinsheimer over at Sojern. So we're setting the stage with all that. We're going to open up with some great sound bites and research that has been put together by the team at Oliver Wyman. So Julien, if you can start us off.
Yes, thank you, Suzanne, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. For context, Oliver Wyman is a global management consulting firm generating a bit more than $3 billion in revenues annually, and so we serve clients across different sectors, in particular airlines, cruise, hotels, and OTAs. Now turning to the research, to give a bit of context. We performed a research on the customer-facing applications of generative AI. And we thought that there was some void here, and there was already some research and views existing on the other topics related to customer servicing, employee productivity, marketing applications, etc. And there's a couple of things we did in particular. Is we looked at the North American leisure traveler behavior at the very top of the funnel, from inspiration to planning and booking. And to do so, we notably performed a survey of the leisure travelers. We tested on prior use, on future adoption, on use cases, etc. The second element we looked at is what are actually the potential economic implications and commercial implications. And in particular, what are going to be the potential shifts in shares in terms of direct versus indirect booking, and also in terms of customer traffic to OTAs. So I'm going to share a few here of the highlights and before the discussion. First, the more than a third of the people we surveyed, of the travelers we surveyed, had already used Gen AI tools, and more than 80% of them actually expressed high satisfaction in terms of the recommendations. And it was more than what we were expecting. We performed the research in August, so this number is pretty high, given, frankly, the tools had been released a few months prior. The second element, which is quite important, is that more than 50% of the respondents said they would choose a booking channel based on the GenAI capabilities going forward. And that number is even higher for customer loyalty member, for even the elite loyalty members. And those are the most valuable customers for suppliers. So if you think of it, that could be big implications on the industry. And so we looked at that here on the right-hand side at what could be the implication from an economic standpoint. At the top right, we're looking at what is the potential evolution in terms of booking shares. And given if suppliers don't invest, there's likely going to be a shift towards indirect booking channels, which means also higher costs in terms of OTA commissions. So you see here the three different scenarios, but the two on the left are essentially higher costs. The one on the right is where suppliers start investing further and they start catching up and actually could win back some of the shares. On the bottom right, we're looking at OTA customer traffic. And here for context, what we are expecting is a shift from traditional search engines to GenAI-enabled search engines going forward, like Google Gemini, ChatGPT, or Meta's with GenAI capabilities. What that would imply is likely also a shift towards more paid traffic for OTAs. And so that's why you see on the bottom right, we likely increased on overall customer acquisition costs for OTAs. Now I want to caveat that it's pretty new and we don't know yet exactly how SEO or SEM are going to work with these tools going forward. So those are some of the highlights, Susan and everyone, and I'm happy to share later on some of the reactions from our clients.
Great, thank you, Julien. And now so there's great opportunity. There's also challenges if you don't jump on the bandwagon at the right time. And we'll get into some of the reactions to those findings in just a minute of the clients that you've been speaking with, because those are some pretty significant economic numbers that we're looking at. So Bruce, I want to turn to you next as we open it up. You lead, you're part of the C-suite of group, the president of Hotel Planner North America. As I mentioned, you are a growing online hotel booking site, one of the fastest growing ones there. So you're getting on more and more folks to as you grow, to work with your growth group. I'm sure that around that table, you're talking about generative AI. What are you hearing first from your clients who are hospitality companies, hotels, and what's the philosophy? What's the corporate culture and the philosophy? Is it kind of the Wild West and from the bottom up, let's see what happens in terms of innovation? Or no, we put guardrails on because we don't know where this is going at the moment?
Well, let's, first of all, you have to, this is an inflection point in time. And if you don't adopt generative AI in your culture, I think you're going to be in the losing side of the equation. So I think, there's 67 people on the call today. So I'm sure you guys are all evangelists and believers, but how do you do it? And how do you get that stage set? So just to level set, Hotel Planner's been in business for 20 years. I say we're 20 years young. This year, we're going to book way north of $1 billion of hotel gross booking revenue. And it's a worldwide operation. We got offices in the UK, Amsterdam. We got a lot of people that work for us in Europe. We have offices in Asia. We just purchased a company in France. So my good friend Julien. So we just picked up a company in near Marseille. And that's a marketing company. What they do is they provide marketing information and collateral material and production to the largest trade shows in the world. So they do a show in Berlin called IFA, which is as large as Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, as an example. They do ITB in Berlin, as an example. And one of the reasons we like that company is that half of their content is produced by generative AI. So we thought that was a good mix. And that was where we were going. So they had some leadership, but they want to be global and they couldn't do it by themselves. So we got together. Now, on the hotel booking side, we installed ChatGPT 7 months ago and, didn't really have any idea, like, okay, people are going to use it, they're going to adopt it. We've got hundreds of thousands of people that have put questions into the system. So it's It's really helping drive the user experience on the site, because now we know what people, they just can't easily get from the content that we have displayed for hotels. And a lot of it's directions, a lot of it's like what hotel, what building are you next to? Are you near the Walmart? Are you near, Nordstrom's that's for Susan. And so it's just a matter of, there's a lot of directions, but there's a lot of information about the hotel. Can I park? How much is the parking? What's the pet policy? The stuff people don't want to scroll, right? They just type in their question, they get the answer, and it's popped up there. On staff, just again, for size and scope, we've got 150 full-time people on staff, and we've got about 3,000 people sitting in call centers. Now, when we put ChatGPT in, one of the primary drivers was to make the call center people more efficient. When you get 3,000 people there, like every second that you save is worth a lot of money. And it also increases the conversion rate. So we put ChatGPT in there, and when the customer's calling and they're asking questions, instead of looking on Google and having two screens open, now they're just putting those questions in ChatGPT and say, okay, how far do I have to go from the hotel to XYZ playing field? And so that enhancement alone generated a 20% increase in conversion, because you're getting the answers faster. And if we train the people, like, you have to be authoritative on your answer. Like, oh, it's 3 miles. You just go down the street, take a left, and you're at the place where you want to be. So that combined with training has been an exceptional use of I guess early stages of ChatGPT. Now, the other, I think, couple big things that we did, and Susan, watch my time, just so I don't want to go too much here. We had our CEO, Tim Henschel. We all talk about generative AI and how we're going to position the company in the boardroom. And we said, okay, listen, we got to get this out into the people, right? So we had Tim Henschel do a presentation about the direction of the company and how it's changing because generative AI is here, and how Hotel Planner, we always position ourselves as a leader in this space. How are we gonna be part of this? And how, as you're working for the company, how are you going to be part of this? Because, we're big believers in top down and bottom up. So it was a repositioning of the company, and to tell people that we are not only going to adopt generative AI, but we are going to lead in this space, where we can. We can't do everything, but the reality is there's a lot of skills that we can bring to face. So that's what we're doing. So what we did after that is that we restructured the tech department. So the tech department, a lot of good guys. Half of them want to work in generative AI space, half of them don't. So it's really, okay, we're repositioning the company. Where do you fit? Do you fit over here in traditional, or do you want to go over here and work on generative AI? So we kind of split the company to focus more on generative AI projects, which is working out really, really well. Now, the other thing we're doing is that we're going to increase the tech staff by 50%.
Wow.
So Susan and I happened to meet up at CES. And if you guys haven't been to CES, I strongly recommend you take the trip, because you see what level of tech investment that people are doing. So we said, listen, I came home from that show. I said, listen, we got to increase. Not only we need more skills, different skills, but we also need more people, because we just have too many projects. So we're increasing our tech department by 50%, and we're already halfway through that hiring process. So we put a new guy who's going to run product development for us, and he's very, very engaged in generative AI, and he's bringing forward that whole approach for the company. So we think we're in a much better leadership position. But the other thing, just other wins, is that we do hundreds of articles a month. It's really for CEO and to increase the stickiness of the pages about destination content and experiences in destinations. Doing hundreds of those a month is all done by generative AI. We've got one guy, that's all he does. So every month we're coming out with brand new content, more destination content, more information about the hotels. So that's a nice win.
No, that's there. I know you can go on, and I'm loving what you're saying. I particularly got the 20% increase in bookings. That was a nice little soundbite there. Kurt, I want to get to you as well, but before I forget, if you don't mind, let me just follow up with one question to Bruce, and then we will get to Sojern, because I know you're doing some incredible things with product. But Bruce, you mentioned with the training and the 3,000 people in call center and having now ChatGPT at their fingertips with training. I get that. Any concerns about hallucinations? Any concerns that they're giving the wrong information?
Not really. I mean, yeah, is it perfect? No, it's not. It's not perfect, but generally the feedback is exceptional. I mean, it's really, people really enjoy having access to that. And what we're doing is we're using our call center folks. If the information isn't correct, we get that filtered up to us through the call center team. So we've had very few instances where it's been markedly, wrong. And so, with this kind of basic information, so it's nothing, create a whole new presentation for me about XYZ. So this is pretty nuts and bolts type stuff that people are asking. So no, it hasn't been.
Great. We'll circle back to that because it's a question that I get constantly when I'm talking to the C-suite with the groups that I'm speaking with, either with Oliver Wyman or also on my own in conferences where I've been doing quite a lot. Bruce and I met recently. We've known each other for years, but we met at CES where I was talking about the future of travel. I was invited to speak at the Consumer Electronics Show, and it was really super interesting that everything was about generative AI, not surprising. So Kurt, I want to turn to you as Chief Product Officer for Sojern, and this is a leading marketing platform in the industry. I believe everyone knows it. If they haven't, you should. But you have developed a whole suite of products that is generative AI for your customers, particularly with the customer experience. Talk about that and some other things, but also if you can address the whole leadership philosophy that your company has in terms of, do you innovate ground up or are you having more of a roadmap approach?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Susan, and happy to be here. And I think, Bruce hit on a lot of the key elements from a philosophical standpoint. You've got to be kind of all in from a mentality standpoint. The way that we kind of talk about it is think big, start small. So you have to have super high expectations for the eventual impact, but you got to kind of work your way through to learn. And I can go into a little bit of that, but you're right. So Sojern from an overall standpoint is a marketing platform that is trying to do basically three things. One is help hotels drive direct demand. So how do you drive more direct demand across advertising, email, text, social channels, et cetera? How do you then optimize that demand for the best guest experience? And then in the end, maximize that revenue per guest. And so it's those one-to-one engagement points around having a better guest experience and maximizing that revenue per guest where we really prioritized a lot of our Gen AI work. For background, we've been working in AI for a decade. Machine learned audiences are key to building bid strategies, audience strategies. And so we're working with hundreds of millions of data points, billions of data points, decisioning, 50, 60,000 decisions per second being made, all leveraging AI. And so moving into Gen AI was more for us, I think, an evolution than a revolution. And we had the advantage of we acquired a Gen AI guest experience a company just under a year ago, who had been in this for 5 years. The company was called Venuelytics and now is Sojern's Guest Experience Solutions. And so I think it is important to note that this is not new. So the more you can find people that have been in this game, the better off you are. Because that gave us a definite leg up that these guys have been in Gen AI for 5 years. I know ChatGPT made Gen AI noticeable to most of the world, but it's been around for a long time in the same way that early browsers like Netscape made the internet available for a lot more people, but the experts have been in it for a decade. So finding people that are in this and passionate about it, I think is critical.
Well, I'm going to ask a question actually of both you and Bruce. I want to stop there and ask that question because you said something super interesting about acquiring talent and knowledge. I've been asking, is it from the ground up or the top down? And you said, we acquired. We wanted the best knowledge, hitting in the best ways, 5 years experience. So Bruce and Kurt, or Bruce, are you looking, and you mentioned that you have 50, you're hiring 50%, oh my gosh, in terms of engineering and technology. How about acquisitions? We heard a lot, and I mean a lot, of great startups over the past 2 days who have been doing nothing but pouring their energies and efforts into generative AI. They're relatively small. They've achieved amazing types of, just in a short time, accomplishments. Do you think that we're on the verge, not just with your two companies, but with OTAs, hospitality companies, cruise lines, et cetera, to a great buying campaign where, instead of these companies going for VC funding or going for IPOs, they're going to be gobbled up by companies such as yours who really need talent. They need talent fast, and they need the talent in a way that will really support their goals. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think you need both. So because I think you've got to bring innovative players into an innovative organization. So it was helpful that the Venuelytics team just helped us accelerate because we had evangelists at Sojern that were already deep in AI and then getting into Gen AI. I think the most important thing you need to have is curious people that want to learn quickly. It is early days here. And so what we found was evangelist teams that wanted to focus on our biggest company problems. And so we've got a tech team that is driving against efficiencies leveraging Gen AI. We've got our guest experience team that's focused on customer interaction and how do you decrease costs to engage with customers. And then we've got our creative team, right? We're building thousands of creative assets every day. So we've got a creative team that's focused on leveraging Gen AI for that. But it's got to start with the company problem. What are your biggest problems you want to solve? And then find people that are A, experienced and B, excited to leverage Gen AI to solve those problems. So I think you can do it from the inside out. And I think it's got to be a combination of top down and bottoms up. Top down with what are the goals? What are the problems we want to solve? Bottoms up, but with those evangelists, they're going to actually get it happening.
Amazing. And I want to turn right now to Julien, because this goes right into the sweet spot of what Oliver Wyman is speaking with their clients about. So you get this question all the time, I know, from very large companies. Where do we start? How do we start the journey of developing a customer-facing Gen AI strategy? Do we build? Do we buy? How are we doing this? Do we, so give us some of what you're hearing on the part of how they're starting with this.
Yes. I mean, the main thing that we discuss with our client and frankly advise them on and work them on is developing a customer-facing Gen AI strategies through really a step-based customer-first approach. What I mean by customer-first here, it means really understanding what your customers are expecting in terms of Gen AI tools, in terms of the capabilities. Is it price comparison? Is it ability to synchronize with loyalty member data, etc.? And that's going to differ across customer segments. So you want to understand those nuances as well. The second element, which is absolutely critical, is understanding your unique data assets and that you possess, and that will help elevate the personalization and differentiate your solution. So, for example, for a hospitality company, right, that can be loyalty member data, that can be guest profile information. Also, even you can think of unique local market insights from on-the-ground presence at destinations. Right, so there's a lot of unique data assets you can have, and from all of this, you can start building clear use cases that effectively will respond to those customer needs that you can serve thanks to your valuable data assets. You need to prioritize those use cases, and importantly, and maybe Kurt also related to what you're saying, start small. Very importantly, then for those prioritized use cases, go in the market, test and learn, pilot the solutions. Pilot the solution through a test and learn approach by putting in place key success metrics, by getting end user feedback, quickly iterating before scaling further to more geographies, more channels, etc., and really have a continuous improvement approach. So that's something that with our clients we've been working on quite a lot, and that's clearly the approach which is as pragmatic as possible to get fast to the market in something which is quite new.
Great, thank you. And Bruce, I asked the question of Kurt, I'll ask it of you too. build or buy in terms of the talent pool, generative AI? Are you looking to, and that's great information, what Julien was saying, what the customer wants, what are your greatest priorities, what problems are you trying to solve? So as you go through those, that method, how are you acquiring or training talent to really make this a part of their solution skill set, and not just the engineers, but everyone?
Yeah, well, we haven't found that much of a challenge hiring developers. And I'm not hiring 150 developers either. So we're talking 10 to 20 developers. So, but we have changed the way we interview developers. So it goes through a much different approach than we did in previous years. And we have the new guys who focus on generative AI plus the old team kind of get together and interview talent. And we find so far the outcomes of that is much better because we're getting the right person, and that person is sticking. So the last thing we want to do is get someone, and then 90 days later they wash out. So that's just not a good use of time. Going back to the last question that I think Kurt did a great job on. So we're in the market. We buy companies. We do that. We just bought a company a month ago, so it's doing great. And what's happening, I see in the marketplace is a lot of smaller players are saying, like, we can't keep up. We're going to give up now, and we're going to get something for our company while there's still value, because they don't think they're going to be valuable a year from now or 2 years from now. So if we think we can help that company take it to the next level, we're interested. And we'd also be interested if, Susan, if you guys had some great potential young companies, we'd take a look at those.
So Bruce is shopping, everyone. Good news. There you go. So you'll be getting a lot of notices, I'm sure, after that little announcement. But yes, which is interesting, because for a lot of these companies that really specialize in it, the larger companies, I will say in my experience, getting things on a roadmap and getting things done are clunky. They take time. And a lot of times it is just a speed to market. And with the acceleration of generative AI just purveying, and we've heard the statistics that Julien showed, which is if you're not there, you're going to be left behind. And that is a fear. We've seen this all over. We've seen quite a lot of statistics from Focusrite and Deloitte and a number of others. And, you do need to be focused on it. So sometimes buying, as you said, Bruce, may be the way to go. So it'll be really interesting. We'll have to watch the pages of Focuswire and Skift intently to see what's going on.
The last thing that we're doing is that we have a lot of partners, right? So we have regular meetings with these partners, and the topic of conversation, what are you doing with generative AI? What's your plan? How are you doing it? And we're kind of realigning the partners we have in different spaces for us. And plus, what can they bring to the table that really doesn't cost us a lot of money? If you want to keep the business, what else are you going to add? How are you going to add value with generative AI to what we're doing? So that's working really well. So if you have partners, knock on the door and say, guys, what are you doing? So, by the way, I don't want to pay, right? So I just want to keep the cost where I am, and you keep the business. There's some cost.
Wow.
So that's working pretty well.
So I always like to end with this as we're wrapping up. Time is clicking away. For each of you, and we have less than a minute, so we're going to do rapid fire. The one thing in the next year to 18 months, I used to say 5 years, forget about it, year to 18 months, that will be the most important thing that leaders need to know about in generative AI in travel, and what might that derail that? I'm going to start with Kurt on that one.
Okay, yeah, so I think the biggest is that promise of personalization. I think it's been talked about forever in travel. We want to personalize. It's always been a small data problem. I think what we're seeing is Gen AI is just taking over and allowing even an independent hotel to be doing that at scale and make a better experience and drive more. What would stop it? Inertia. Not doing anything, letting your day-to-day get in the way of you actually getting on and finding partners and moving forward. I think that's it. And good data, to Julian's point. You got to be in control of your data, because bad data makes it hallucinate.
Indeed. So Julien, he just invoked your name. Rapid fire, you got 20 seconds. What's the most important thing? What's the thing we're going to look at, your crystal ball the next year, and what could derail that?
Yeah. So look at, between our research, the conversations we had again here today with all of our clients, clearly, I mean, there's a big shift in priorities towards customer-facing applications as the next frontier, right? And I very much also, Kurt, agree with you. That's what we're discussing. The data that goes into what you're building is absolutely key, and careful with that.
Great, thank you. Bruce, rounding up this thing, we have 3 seconds.
All right, so you got to watch out for the winner take all strategy, because a lot of guys out there are big, bad sharks. So it's going to make sure you own your market segment, own your customer, make sure you continue to add value in the marketplace. If not, you got trouble.
Awesome. Thank you all. I think we're off to the next session. I appreciate it. We'll see you at the next session. Thanks again.
Thank you.